Acharya. Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai.
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 Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai.
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 ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
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 Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai.
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 Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai.
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham ki jai.
Jai.
Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai.
Jai.
Ganga Mai ki jai.
Jai.
Yamuna Mai ki jai.
Jai.
Tulsi Devi ki jai.
Jai.
Bhakti Devi ki jai.
Jai.
Shramaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
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 Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari
Hari
Bol.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
All glory to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai
Jai Jai
Shri
Sri
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Jai
Jai
Nityananda.
Nityananda
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai
Jai
Advaita
Advaita
Chandra
Chandra
Jai
Jai
Gaur
Gaur
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda.
Vrinda
Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda.
Jai
Jai
Shri
Jai Sri
Chaitanya
Chaitanya
Jai
Jai
Nityananda.
Nityananda
Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai
Jai
Advaita
Advaita
Chandra
Chandra
Jai
Jai
Gaur
Gaur
Bhakta
Bhakta
Vrinda.
Vrinda
We're studying the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita written by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Adi Leela, chapter number 7, and here we are at text 73.
কৃষ্ণ মন্ত্র হইতে হবে সংসার মোচন, কৃষ্ণ নাম হইতে পাবে কৃষ্ণের চরণ।
Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can obtain freedom from material existence. Indeed, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one will be able to see the lotus feet of the Lord. Purport. In his Anubhashya, Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami says that the actual effect that will be visible as soon as one achieves transcendental knowledge is that he will immediately become free from the clutches of Maya and fully engage in the service of the Lord. Unless one serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead Mukunda, one cannot be free from fruitive activities under the external energy. However, when one chants the holy name of the Lord offenselessly, he can realize a transcendental position which is completely aloof from the material conception of life. Rendering service to the Lord, a devotee relates to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in one of 5 relationships, namely Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. And thus, he relishes transcendental bliss in that relationship. Such a relationship certainly transcends the body and mind. When one realizes that the holy name of the Lord is identical with the Supreme Person, he becomes completely eligible to chant the holy name of the Lord. Such an ecstatic chanter and dancer must be considered to have a direct relationship with the Lord. According to the Vedic principles, there are 3 stages of spiritual advancement, namely Sambandha Gyan, Abhidheya, and Prayojana. Sambandha Gyan refers to establishing one's original relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Abhidheya refers to acting according to that constitutional relationship. And Prayojana is the ultimate goal of life, which is to develop love of Godhead. Prema Pumarto Mahan. If one adheres to the regulative principles under the order of the spiritual master, he very easily achieves the ultimate goal of life. A person who is addicted to the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra very easily gets the opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. There is no need for such a person to understand the grammatical jugglery in which Mayavadi sannyasis generally indulge. Sri Shankaracharya also stressed this point. Nahi nahi rakshati dukrin korane. Simply by juggling grammatical suffixes and prefixes, one cannot save himself from the clutches of death. The grammatical word jugglers cannot bewilder a devotee who engages in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Simply addressing the energy of the Supreme Lord as Hare and the Lord himself as Krishna very soon situates the Lord within the heart of the devotee. By thus addressing Radha and Krishna, one directly engages in his lordship's service. The essence of all revealed scriptures and all knowledge is present when one addresses the Lord and his energy. That's okay. By the Hare Krishna mantra. For this transcendental vibration can completely liberate a conditioned soul and directly engage him in the service of the Lord. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu presented himself as a grand fool, yet he maintained that all the words that he had heard from his spiritual master strictly followed the principles stated by Vyasadeva in Srimad Bhagavatam, Anartopashamam Sakshad, Bhakti Yogam Adhokshaje, Lokasya Janato Vidvangs, chakre sattvata sanhitam. The material miseries of a living entity, which are superfluous to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the supreme truth. Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 7th Chapter, 6th Verse. One can overcome all misconceptions and entanglement in the material world by practicing Bhakti Yoga. And therefore Vyasadeva, acting on the instruction of Sri Narad, has very kindly introduced Srimad Bhagavatam to relieve the conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya. Lord Chaitanya's spiritual master instructed him, therefore, that one must read Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and with scrutiny to gradually become attached to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. The holy name of the Lord, the holy name and the Lord are identical. One who is completely free from the clutches of Maya can understand this fact. This knowledge, which is achieved by the mercy of the spiritual master, places one on the supreme transcendental platform. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presented himself as a fool because prior to accepting the shelter of a spiritual master, he could not understand that simply by chanting one can be relieved from all material conditions. But as soon as he became a faithful servant of his spiritual master and followed his instructions, he very easily saw the path of liberation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra must be understood to be devoid of all offenses. The 10 offenses against the holy name are as follows. 1. To blaspheme a devotee of the Lord. 2. To consider the Lord and the demigods to be on the same level, or to think there are many gods. 3. To neglect the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To minimize the authority of the scriptures, Vedas. 5. To interpret the holy name of God. 6. To commit sins on the strength of chanting. 7. To instruct the glories of the Lord's name to the unfaithful. 8. To compare the chanting of the holy name with material piety. 9. To be inattentive while chanting the holy name. And 10. To be attached to material things in spite of chanting the holy name. So we go to the beginning, the top of that, that long purport. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So do you remember where we are? Why is this verse being said? Who's speaking to whom? Do you remember?
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Prakashananda Saraswati.
And in what context? Yes.
They were Prakashananda Saraswati was saying, why aren't you a good, why aren't you like us and study Vedanta? Why do you chant the holy names? You appear to be like a sentimentalist.
Yeah, why you do this chanting and dancing in the company of fanatics? So Lord Chaitanya said, he went to his spiritual master, and his spiritual master said this. It's a very interesting kind of preaching as Lord Chaitanya is doing. He's not doing it on his own authority, but he says it's the authority of his spiritual master His spiritual master told him to do it. And then he's saying, this is Ishwar Puri speaking. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, one can attain freedom from material existence. Indeed, simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, one will be able to see the lotus feet of the Lord. So, in this, very good, very good. In this first part of the purport, it said, Srila Prabhupada here says that to become free from the clutches of Maya, one has to engage fully in the service of the Lord, and as soon as one achieves transcendental knowledge, that's the symptom. So we know Srimad Bhagavatam, I think very soon you'll be coming up to the verse. It goes, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janiyati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayoda Haitukam. By rendering unmotivated service to the Lord, one immediately, very quickly, Janiyati means very soon, gets Vairagyam, Jnanam, means renunciation and knowledge, transcendental knowledge. And as soon as one gets renunciation and transcendental knowledge, one is free from the clutches of Maya. So it goes that way. This is reminiscent of the verse in Bhagavad-Gita, which you might remember. It goes, Daivihyesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. This divine energy of mine, which is Maya. So Lord Krishna's energy of Maya, her thankless task is to keep us, you and I, distracted, deviated from serving Krishna if we're not very sincere. And she's very good at her task. She knows, as a good servant of Krishna, she can pick up on our weaknesses and sway us from a determination for engaging in devotional service to the Lord. It's something like I used to have to interview people who were in recovery from drugs or alcohol. And I would ask them, so why do you want to stop using, or why do you want to stop drinking? And you could tell from their answer, if they weren't 100% sure they wanted to, if they gave a vague answer, in 1 week, 1 month, they'd be back to drinking, because it's very powerful, that distraction of the material energy. Similarly, Maya is very strong, and she can deviate us in myriad different ways, from subtle and gross. So then the last part of that verse goes, Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. When you surrender, if a person surrenders to Krishna, then Maya lets him alone, gives it up. Something like, I don't know, they have these pit bulls. Have you ever seen a pit bull? Sometimes they look very benign, but they are trained sometimes to attack. Let's say you got 6 pit bulls, the people walking 6, and if the manager or owner of the pit bulls 6 them on you, and they're running towards you, how can you get away? Almost impossible. They'll tear you apart. But if the owner just gives the word, they're trained well, whistles, calls them off, then you're okay. So Maya is being called, if the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who's in control of Maya, the master of Maya, calls off, say the 3 pit bulls of material nature, goodness, passion, ignorance, three gunas, then we're safe. And so, how do you do that? By surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman payatyajya mam ekam sharanam braja. And Srila Prabhupada made the point several times that the instruction of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita to surrender unto him, give up all other dharmas, and is the same as Lord Chaitanya's instruction to chant, regularly chant the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we can become inoculated from the influence of Maya by regularly chanting Krishna's holy names. This is Lord Chaitanya showing us. He's Krishna. He knows. He can give us that assurance. Others can't give us the assurance. There's so many people in the world who will give us false hopes. But Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, Aham ton sarva papebhyo mokshyasami ma sucha. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's true. It's true. You have to persevere a little bit, but it's true. So similarly, so Krishna as Lord Chaitanya is assuring us this process of chanting the holy names, regularly chanting the holy names, it works and will result in being able to see God in love. So then Srila Prabhupada mentions the five rasas. Who knows the five rasas? You don't have to go back. Don't go back.
Okay.
Who knows the five rasas?
Oh,
Shanta, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya.
And translate them, please.
Vatsalya is parental. Madhurya is conjugal. Dasya is in service attitude. Sakhya is friendship. Shanta is what is that word?
neutral.
Neutral.
Oh, thank you, Mother Sudevi. That was Mother Sudevi?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. So in Shantaras there's a recognition of the glory of the supremacy, the wonder of the Supreme Lord, but there's not actually service, not necessarily service. So it's considered like a borderline kind of situation. But the others, Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya, are involved in service. Yeah. A really important point here also is that when engaging in Krishna consciousness, in the beginning, because we're chanting, our chanting is not free of offenses. We're still committing offenses. The offensive stage of chanting, the taste for material happiness lingers in our thoughts, in our consciousness, in our habits, etc. But by persevering in the process of chanting, and as Prabhupada mentioned, they're also reading, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, gradually one gets a higher taste. So it's really important for devotees to cultivate or culture that higher taste. It's like the creeper of devotion. You keep it very carefully, protect it, water it carefully, and because on the strength of our higher taste and our determination to continue to act on the higher taste of service to Krishna, all auspiciousness begins. So the verses, the Bhagavad Gita, as you know, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina. So even though a person may restrict themselves from the other kinds of material pleasures that people are involving themselves in, vishaya niraharasya, by negative restriction, raso varajam rasopyasya param dvishvani vartade. But one becomes fixed when one develops the higher taste of relishing the ability and the opportunity to serve Krishna. And there's the 3 stages of spiritual advancement: sambandha, abhideya, prayojan. Yeah. So far, does somebody have comments or questions so far? Something came up to you that you wanted to add or clarify or correct? Mother Sudevi. No? Okay.
One of the points that I was reflecting on was the importance of accepting a guru. I truly have felt that. I mean, I think I was in that Shantaras for the longest time, but accepting a guru, and even now the process is not that fast, but definitely the right trajectory. I feel whatever it is I have been hearing for all this time, it is starting to make so much more sense since I have the mercy of my guru. I've truly felt that.
Personal testimony is very good. Yeah. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena seveya upadakshanti te jnanam jnanena tatvadarshan. The spiritual master can show you the truth because the spiritual master has seen the truth, so they can bring you along, drag you along, whereas before we were kind of stuck.
Yeah.
I was, sometimes I do some study of research where people have spontaneous recall of their previous lives, and it's quite amazing the detail that they remember a previous life. Like these are things like there's a psychiatrist, he passed away now, his name's Ian Stevenson. Anyway, he wrote volumes of cases of people. They're quite interesting. But none of those people ever develop, they don't develop, as far as he's recorded, any interest in spiritual life. Isn't that interesting? You realize, I was a different person. I was born a different person. Previously I lived a different, now I've got a different body, but then after a short time they forget about it and just go on with their regular material life. Why is that? Because they don't have spiritual guidance. They don't have a spiritual master. There's no context to apply that knowledge. It's not realized knowledge, and they forget about it. So the mercy of Krishna is descending through his authorized representatives, his bona fide representatives, to lead us and to apply or have realized knowledge about this God and his service. Okay, I see that Mother Sudevi now has her hand up. Or was that just a high five?
Yes, Prabhu. I do have a question. When you're reading the list of 10 offenses,
Yeah.
Was it it is also offensive to be inattentive while chanting? Was that included?
In this list, it's not, but that is also included. Yeah. I mean, as far as I understand it, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur that's kind of like the overarching. It's an overarching offense because if we're not attentive, then the whole none of the whole thing will work. So to pay attention, to actually hear, make an effort to make the environment where you chant free from distraction, and not to be doing other things while you're chanting. Those things are like a prerequisite almost for, yeah. So you were having a comment about that?
Well, I was just wondering, it's not a list, but we know, of course, to be inattentive is offensive, but
Yeah.
technically it's not in the list. That was my question. So
Yeah, correct. I mean, it is sometimes included, but this list, I believe it's from Padma Purana. This list of offenses, just like we when we had this class about activities in the temple, there's different lists of offenses given that you can be offend Krishna by being very dirty when you come in the temple and things like that. So similarly, there's a list of offenses here for chanting the holy names, and they're very interesting offenses because the first one is to blaspheme devotees, which really means to unnecessarily criticize them. So in my mind, I was thinking, well, that really means the great devotees, the spiritual master, and stuff like that. And then I heard a lecture Srila Prabhupada was responding. He said, no, any devotee, unnecessarily criticize any is offense. And then to consider the names of the Lord and the demigods to be on the same level. There are so many spiritualists who don't make any distinction between the name of Krishna and the name of various demigods. So they'll chant, Durga, Shiva, etc. Not that those demigods are not great elevated personalities, but they're not on the same level as Krishna. They won't deliver the same benefit of love of God by chanting their names. So in the Shastra, especially in Srimad Bhagavatam, we only say Shravanam, Kirtanam. That's 9 kinds of devotional service. Are Shravanam, Kirtanam, what?
Vishnu.
Vishnu. We don't say Shravanam, Kirtanam, Shiva, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Durga, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Ganesh. We don't say that because there's a distinction. They're all worshipable in a given respectable personalities, but they're not on the same level as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Yeah. Other things.
Hare Krishna,
Vatsala
Prabhu.
Mataji.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Mother Vatsala had her hand up too, and I see Bhakti Sean has his hand up also. So we got hands. Okay.
My humble pranam, Prabhu. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for the lecture. I always want to listen to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's things, and it is happening by Krishna's mercy.
Yeah.
Prabhu, from my personal experience, I used to be so crazy to go to the temple all the time. But now I do worship Krishna at home. I do worship Srila Prabhupada. And I do have greatest faith in Vaishnava philosophy. I think because of, I don't know, something, little thing that is happening within me, maybe Krishna is not creating that craziness to go all the time to see, but I think it is being a little bit of mellowed way of worshipping God. I do service at home, taking care of things and all, but I don't know whether it is the mercy of all the acharyas, previous acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, and all the Siksha Guru, I mean, I believe in everybody, all this, our acharyas. So maybe that is happening because of that. And another thing is.
So what was the question? Was the question or a statement?
That is a statement. The second
Okay.
one is like, the second one is like, if Krishna knows my internal desire, keep, I mean, always we think we are going in the right direction. We are listening and doing all the things. Do you think Krishna can slightly favor us by removing certain Maya to intensify our faith?
That's the point here. That's the point here. Krishna, by regularly chanting, there's especially 5 kinds of devotional service that are very, very powerful, that can develop that spiritual taste, devotional ecstasy, even in us neophyte people. And one is chanting the holy names of the Lord, one is associating with devotees, one is studying and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one is Mother Sudevi, are you there? Mother Sudevi?
Deities,
Worship of the deity.
Ashtamurtis.
Yeah. And the fifth?
Association of devotees, did you say
I
that?
said that. Oh, yeah, I
Chanting,
said that. Yeah.
Bhagavatam.
Yeah. Living in a holy place. Living in a holy. So, yeah. So, I mean, we have an opportunity to visit the temple. And as Krishna says in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the purpose of going to the temple is to get associations, to worship the deity, to serve the deity, but also to associate with devotees, to hear from devotees and associate and do service together. That's also a very important aspect. So, yeah, Krishna will help you and all of us to improve our quality and service. Bhakti Sean.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for taking my question.
Yeah.
So the categorization, I guess you could call it, of God realization, starting with Sambandha Gyan. How is so there's, yeah, if you just scroll back up a little bit.
Yeah. Sambandha Gyan.
Yep, there's
Abhideya and
Sambandha Gyan.
Prayojana.
So how is that different? I know, and maybe this is totally different, but how is that different from what's the other categorization that was spoken about? Madhurya.
Yeah. Madhurya, Vatsalya, Sakya.
Yes.
You're correct. There are all these different kinds of categories, in this Vaishnava philosophy and Indian philosophy in general. So these are general categories. Sambandha Gyan means the basic Sambandha Gyan means to understand from a philosophical and a realization point of view that I am the eternal servant of Krishna. It could be in any of the 5 categories, and that won't be revealed until later. Your eternal relationship with Krishna, whether in one of those 5 categories, is there, but that will be revealed to you much later. All of those categories, though, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya, they all have a basic element of service. Dasya is there in all of them. The gopis, even though the Madhurya are on the Madhurya platform, they're interested in making Krishna and Srimati Radharani happy by their service, by their activities. So there are different kind of categorizations here. So Sambandha Gyan is to really be convinced and have realized knowledge about our position. You are an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Abhideya, the next thing, is acting in that relationship. And then Prayojan, once you act regularly, consistently, non-enviously in that relationship, then realization comes of love of God. And in that stage, you're going to be, once you're in that stage, the realization of your eternal rasa with Krishna can be revealed. Usually not in the Sambandha and Abhideya category. What do you say, Mother Sudevi?
Yes, Prabhu.
Did you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
It will be gradual,
Yes.
but that's a process. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And there's a lot of different kind of categorizations too, because we also have the category of Adao Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Ta Bhajana Kriya, the different stages, that's depending on signposts of one's progress in devotional service. That's another category. And we should remember that, Mother Shobha Radhe was talking about how having a spiritual master is certainly directing her and giving her realizations that she didn't have before. And that's to be understood, because when you get, what's it called when you accept a spiritual master formally?
Initiation.
Initiation.
Yes, initiation. And what does the word initiation mean?
To get started.
Yeah, to begin. That's beginning. Initiation is beginning. So we're just getting started, getting going. Yeah, let's initiate. We're going to start. So that's when where the rubber meets the road. Is okay. I accept I'm an eternal servant of Krishna, and I need guidance, just like Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita needed guidance from Krishna. So that's when things start to develop. One's realizations start to develop. One's appreciation start to increase. One's taste for Krishna conscious service, associating with devotees and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, as you're doing, will become a really important part of your life from here on after, by continuing to do that.
Hare Krishna, Vishnu Prabhu. There's a question in the chat.
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, what does it say?
It says, quick question. What is the difference between going to the temple for darshan versus praying to Lord Krishna at home? Are they both the same?
Well, the temple is considered, we think it's a holy place because that's where the services of Krishna are going there 24 hours. You can remember Krishna anywhere. You can remember Krishna anywhere, but specifically, it's helpful to go to a temple. Krishna is everywhere. And as I mentioned, the advantage of coming to the temple as a holy place is to associate with other devotees, not just for social, we can hear what the gossip is, but to associate with devotees and do service together. That's the miracle of a temple. Not just Srila Prabhupada, but all the acharyas, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, they established temples, not just because they had nothing else to do, but to give people the opportunity to come together, to serve Krishna together, to associate with devotees, and in that way make spiritual progress. So they're both good. They're both very good. And it's important. But when one does stuff at home, one can be distracted by so many other worldly things. Where do people usually die? At home. The home can be your source of liberation, or it could be your source of bondage. So if your devotional service is very strong, they can be equal, but it's still recommended. Everybody can regularly go to holy places, and the temple is one of them. There are other holy places. You can go to Mayapur, Vrindavan. You can go to New Vrindavan. You can go to other holy places, other spiritual places. And the point of going there is to hear and talk with devotees, other sadhus, see the services that are going on, and be inspired in your own service that you're going to do at home. They're both good, but there's a special benefit you might get from coming to the temple. At least that's the theory. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Prabhus and Matajis, etc. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Vishnu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Vishnu Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Pancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva chapitidanam pavanebhyo
Patitanam
Vaishnavebhyo
Pavani
Namo.
Vaishnavebhyo Namo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Tonight we have a Bhagavad-Gita reading, 5 o'clock to 5:30. It'd be great to see you there if you can if you can make it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.